So, I want to start off by saying welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome. If you're a fanatic of everything entertainment, then this is the channel for you. But in today's movie review, we'll be talking about last year's Heretic. So let's get into it.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Fuck you!
Jason, Mother is talking to you!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
So, right off the bat, I'm going to let you guys know that if you haven't seen Heretic, there will be spoilers, okay? But I do recommend picking up this release. This is the Blu-ray. My drunk self actually got the Blu-ray instead of the 4K, and I was very pissed off about that because I went to the A24 shop and forgot to switch the Blu-ray to the 4K, and so I got the Blu-ray, unfortunately, but it is a cool release. But I will say, if you haven't seen Heretic, do not open this release up. All you need to do is just get the disc and put it in your player because this spoiled something for me and it pissed me off, but I'm glad to say that regardless of me being spoiled, I absolutely love this movie. So I'm just saying that if you haven't seen this movie, do not open that up and look at the cards inside yet. So this movie is one that has been on my radar, but I wasn't entirely like looking forward to watching it until after seeing Sophie Thatcher and Companion, which she was great in that movie, and I wanted to see more of her because, like I said, she was the best part of that movie, and I wanted to see what else she's done. And then knowing that Hugh Grant is a villain in a horror movie, yes. And then it's a religious horror movie, but it's not like a paranormal religious horror movie like The Nun, The Conjuring, Insidious, that type of stuff. So that being said, let's move on to the things that I did like about this movie. Hands down, Hugh Grant. Okay, Hugh Grant in here. I've never talked about him on my channel. The first movie I think I actually watched of his was a really recent movie, and that being Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I may have seen some of his other films growing up as a kid, but I'm not entirely sure because Hugh Grant never really stood out to me, or maybe it's because I just haven't seen any of his films. But like knowing that he came from like basically a rom-com renaissance from the 90s, I was like, okay, I'm interested in seeing what this guy's doing, especially since he played a really fun and kooky villain in Dungeons and Dragons, and then he plays the villain in Paddington too, but I still need to see those movies because Paddington in Peru is out now. And then he plays in Wonka, which he plays in Oompa Loompa. So I do want to see that. I do own Wonka on 4K. I'm just waiting for them to come out with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory on 4K because I have the first film from 72 and then I have, Wonka on 4K as well. But that's besides the point. Like Hugh Grant in here, um, he's one of the main reasons to watch this movie. This is hands down the best movie I've seen from him, given I've only seen like two of his movies, but I'm really interested in seeing more of his films, regardless if they're rom-coms or not. Or I think he was part of a horror film in the 80s, so I'm interested in seeing that too. I just want to see more of Hugh Grant, especially after seeing this movie. And then you can't talk about the performances without bringing up Sophie Thatcher. She is Sister Barnes in here. She is one of the best parts of this movie as well, like the main trio in here with Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and then Chloe East, phenomenal. Okay, but Sophie Thatcher, you can never get enough of Sophie Thatcher. She is, like I said, the best part about Companion and one of the best parts about this movie. I need more Sophie Thatcher because I love her filmography that I've seen so far. And then Chloe Easton here. I wasn't really sold on her at first because she played like this very young, naive, and innocent Mormon girl. And it came off to me at first as like a bit annoying, but her arc in here is tremendous. I love where she starts off with this movie and where she finishes off with this movie. Like her arc in here, like Mr. Reed didn't really have an arc in here. Sister Barnes didn't really have one, but Sister Paxton, played by Chloe East, had the best character arc in here. She came off as very naive, ditzy, and innocent at the beginning, and then she really tried and rivaled Mr. Reed. Now, I'm not a big religious person. I'm still not 100% on what I believe. So when there's like scenes of them debating about religion and Mormonism and all the other religions out there, I thought Mr. Reed made some really good points, which I find it really weird because he's the villain of this movie, but Hugh Grant plays him so well that he comes off as like this very down to earth person at the same time, very warm, but very, I don't know what the word is, very vile if you get to know him. But I will say, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton also make great points as well because at first I was like, yeah, I'm on Mr. Reed's side. And then they brought up certain points and I'm like, okay, I see where they're going with this as well. So like it was a very thought-provoking movie in a way for me. And this movie is a lot of debating, especially like the first 40, 50 minutes. And I wish the rest of the movie was like that because I could watch that all day because some of the points that Mr. Reed brings up with like board games and music, I was like, I never thought about religion this way, and that's really weird, you know? But I absolutely loved it. Okay, it's like it made more sense to me, and that was really weird because I tend to not really care about that type of subject material. Like I said, there's a lot of debates, especially in the first half of this movie. But I love the dialogue in here. It is very dialogue heavy, especially in the first half. And that might get to some people because I've seen some reviews to where like, it's very thought provoking and I'm interested, but it went on for way too long. I could have gone with like another 20 to 30 minutes, to be honest. I absolutely love the camera work in here. There's this one shot towards the end where Sister Paxton is walking up the stairs, and then it pans to her in this house walking, trying to get through the maze, and then it pans up back to her coming out of the basement door or whatever, and I thought that was like one of the coolest shots ever. And I know the cinematographer in here has worked on a lot of other things that, look tremendous and beautiful, and it makes a lot of sense because this movie is tremendous and beautiful. I love the tension in here brought upon Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton by Mr. Reed. Like this movie has like the scariest build-up to Monopoly. I shit you not, because I turned to my wife. I was like, "What the fuck? You had me scared." And they're like, "It's Monopoly." Like I said, he talks about religion with board games and music, but it was just the fact that like the build up leading up to Monopoly was so tense, and I absolutely loved it. This movie is very tense. Even on a second time watch, this movie was tense for me. I love that this movie takes place in mostly one location. There are some other scenes in the beginning where the sisters are walking in town trying to spread the word of Jesus with the Book of Mormon. And then there's some scenes with Topher Grace, which Topher Grace is in here. I forgot he was in here. So when I saw it, I'm like, Foreman? Like I was like, is that really Topher Grace? Is that Eddie Brock? But I don't know. They dyed his hair to make him look older, but like I don't know. Like I didn't for like 10 seconds. I was like, this guy looks familiar, and it was Topher Grace, and he does good in here. They don't really give him much to do, unfortunately. He only has like maybe 5 or 6 lines of dialogue. At that, maybe 10 at most, which is crazy. If you have Topher Grace, like I need more Topher Grace in this movie, please. This movie is very simple but profound if you pay attention to a lot of other things throughout the movie because they do bring up some other things outside of religion as well. Now, the last thing I'm positive about, which this is going to get into spoilers real quick, but I love that at the end, Mr. Reed is asking for prayer when he's about to kill Sister Paxton, but then Sister Barnes takes him out after, seemingly being dead for like the last 25 minutes of the film. But I like that too. And I also love what Sister Paxton says. She's like, there's been studies where praying doesn't really do much, but I do it anyway because I think it's nice that other people are thinking about each other other than themselves. And she even said it, even for you, Mr. Reed. And I'm like, that's crazy. I never thought about it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't pray much. I may do it maybe once a month, once every other month, if I'm being honest here. But I thought that was really sweet. And then you can't talk about the ending without bringing up the last shot in here. I'm still debating on what this movie is, what the ending meant. Because earlier in the film, Sister Paxton said when she dies, she wants to be a butterfly and land on the hand of her loved ones to know that that's her. Well, she escapes Mr. Reed's house and she sees a butterfly. And in the next shot, it's gone. Like it magically just disappears. So I don't know what that means. I still don't know what it means. That's why I love this movie because it's still making me think. Like I don't know if it's that she's really dead or if she just saw a miracle or it was artificial. I don't know. Like I do have my theories, but I absolutely loved it. Okay, so let's move on to the things that I'm mixed on with this movie. So the main thing I am mixed on is the prophet scene. This is when the movie sort of turned into a different direction. And the first time I watched it, I wasn't fully on board. I actually put it in my negatives, but on the second time watch, I thought it makes more sense, especially with what Mr. Reed says is the one true religion being control. So it made a lot more sense on that. I'm not fully on board with it yet. Like maybe on a third time watch, I will, but like when there is so much profound like dialogue and debate in the first half, like this movie went from like a very A24 film to like an average religious horror movie or I don't know, it felt like two different movies right afterwards, but it makes sense with the story. That's why I'm not fully on board with it. Even with that scene, there's a debate with Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton where Mr. Reed actually does improvise. There's something that like he wasn't originally gonna intend on talking about, but then he saw that Sister Barnes had like this implant, like a birth control implant, and like he wanted to tell Sister Paxton that she was an artificial intelligence, basically AI, sort of like in Companion. But yeah, thanks to that, like he gets called out for that because she was like, yeah, some people have, you know, implants for birth control. But speaking about, the one true religion being control, I think it does make a lot of sense. I do feel like that is the main true religion is control. And we have control in everything, regardless if it's religion, government, what have you. Like there's control in everything we do, regardless if it's religious or not. But like religion does take another step for me. Mr. Reed has these prophets in his basement, or at least in the basement within the basement, which is crazy. But yeah, he's had these prophets in there for years, I'm guessing. But I was thinking maybe they're his wives because earlier he brings up polygamy, which that's a very controversial subject, especially in the Book of Mormon and Mormonism. So like they get into that as well. But I'm thinking maybe those are his wives because, they're in the beginning, he's talking about his wife and they can't go in, unless there's another female present. And he's like, my wife's here. And then, like, for 15, 20 minutes, they're like, I really want to meet your wife. And, like, he's like, do you believe what I've been telling you that I have a wife? But, like, I don't know. Maybe the women in his basement are his wives. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. But with that being said, let's move on to the things that I didn't like about this movie. So the main thing that like if I had to have a negative, it's this. And it's whenever Sister Barnes or Sister Paxton, brings up a really good counterpoint to his points that he brings up, especially when talking about religion. Like he just he just sits there and looks at them. Like whenever they bring up a good point, a good counter argument, he just makes a face, and I feel like we need more dialogue. We need more back and forth. He just like looks at them very eerie, and then I don't know. Things get awkward, but like in a good way. But like it's just the fact that like I need more dialogue out of him. Given you can make the argument that like his face says it all. But like I said, one of the best elements of this movie is the dialogue in here, and I would have loved a lot more. Especially with more counter arguments against each other. I'm not one for arguments, but I think that this movie made some really good points on both sides. So like I needed more dialogue. I didn't need to see him just make a face, like that. I don't know. I'm really like grasping with this. But with that being said, I'm going to be giving last year's Heretic an overall grade of a 90%. I absolutely love this movie. I think it is my favorite movie of last year. I don't know, like it's this, The Substance, The Wild Robot, and a couple others just like go back and forth for me. But for right now, Heretic is my favorite movie from last year. Absolutely loved it. I feel like it was made for me because I'm not a very religious person, and I don't think this movie is specifically attacking religion, maybe Mormonism, but like religion in general. Like it's very opinionated, so it doesn't represent what the filmmakers think about religion. I just thought it was really great. I love this movie. Okay, but with that being said, let me know in the comments below what you thought about this movie. And as always, I just want to say thank you for watching my videos and hope to see you in the next one.